have been stumped. So a 30-year-old man might be reacting to something as a 16-year-old boy, because that's when he started putting the lid on his emotions.
Right, welcome, ladies and gents, to another episode of Fit Beyond 40. Very lucky today. We're going to be talking purely mental health, which is quite hard. It's quite hard. It's been really good getting people in talking about being active and being fit. Got quite a lot of people who are up for coming on and talking about that. But when it comes to sharing your troubles and mental health, understandably so, people are reluctant. Just like me, I'm quite vague with what's gone on with my life. Sometimes you don't want to wash your dirty laundry in public, and I get it, I totally get it, but it's really important that we raise awareness of mental health and we talk about it, and we get men especially talking, because it's still very taboo, it's still very, not talked about subject. So I'm really pleased today. I've got Chris coming on today. Welcome, Chris.
Welcome. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
I've just met Chris today, and this is going to be good fun, mate, because I've not done this before.
Yeah.
Everyone has been on the podcast I kind of know. I've met previously. So Chris has literally driven down from up north Hemel today. So really grateful that you've made the journey.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to talk mental health. And one of the things we're going to talk about is how we're so lucky in this day and age to have the amount of choice of mental health help and support groups that we've got. But they're only great if we get men to use them.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, you've got the support group called Man Up.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's a community support group called Man Up, No Man Down. The name was selected because of the stigma around man up. I think for years men have been told to man up. I think it'd be nice to put a positive spin on it. And that's why the name was chosen.
So, you're based in Hemel, the group?
Yep.
Yep. And how do you get in touch with the group? What do you guys do? What's the purpose of the group?
Yeah, so at the moment, we started an Instagram page and a YouTube channel. That stuff gets shared on Facebook, and we've been extremely fortunate. I think we started posting 10 days ago. We've had over 60,000 views.
That's really good, mate. That's fantastic.
It literally grew arms and legs. I wasn't expecting such positive feedback from men and from women, which has been fantastic. Women reaching out saying, how can we help? And, so that's good. I think that side of things, the social media side of things has been fantastic, but we're not just social media based.
Okay.
So we have got a hub where we'll be doing, ideally we work towards weekly 2-hour meets, but at the minute the first one is going to be in May, and it will just be one in May, just to see how many people attend.
Yep. And
the feedback, and we go from there.
Okay. And what will happen at these support groups? It's just to get guys talking, having a cup of tea, cup of coffee?
Yeah, so basically there'll be it will be like topics. So we'll cover topics. So there'll be a whiteboard or presentation, and there'll be 1 or 2 topics on there. And the idea of the groups, get men together from all different backgrounds. I thought it was important to put a Man Up community support group and not Man Up mental health, because I think people hear the word mental health and there's also almost a stigma attached to that.
Yeah, there can be.
And then people might not want to share something because they think they're being viewed as, oh, he's sharing that, he must have mental health issues. So I didn't want that stigma of mental health attached to the name and the what we're doing. So it's a community support group. Men will come, from all different walks of life. I've had loads of different men message me that have recovered from alcohol, that have recovered from drugs, that have recovered from loss, childhood trauma. And, they said, are we welcome? I said, every man is welcome. And you have to understand the strength and everything used to overcome alcohol, drugs, loss. They're the same things that every man uses. So the group doesn't discriminate. We've all used that strength and applied those things to overcome anything that we've had to overcome in life.
Isn't it weird that we talk about mental health and the issues you go with mental health, but we still group addiction in another group.
Yeah.
When it's exactly the same thing. It's just a different form of dealing with it. You use substances or alcohol to remedy yourself, which isn't the best way to go about it, because you're almost using that to escape reality and not deal with the issue.
Yeah.
But you still need help. You still need intervention. It's exactly the same thing.
It's the same principle. And I'm fortunate enough, when in 2013-14, I volunteered for 6 months as a drug and alcohol recovery worker.
Okay.
I was interested in the psychological side of it, what makes people self-medicate. And it was an eye-opening experience. And the common root was childhood trauma.
Okay.
And
that makes sense.
Basically, you have to look at it like this. We just imagine you have a jar, an empty jar, and we fill that jar up with trauma, sadness, and we put a lid on it with alcohol, drugs, and what other things people use to escape. At some point, that lid's got to come off. And when it does, the emotion and everything like that comes out, you're not going to be prepared to deal with, because your emotional development has been stumped by the use of drugs and alcohol. Yeah. So the go-to emotion will be aggression or emotion. And your emotional ability might have been stumped. So a 30-year-old man might be reacting to something as a 16-year-old boy, because that's when he started putting the lid on his emotions. So your emotions haven't developed. You haven't learned to regulate yourself emotionally. So it was a fascinating experience. I did it for 6 months, 3-4 days a week. So it's given me a good insight.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I've not going into too much detail, but I definitely have been. I've drank from the age of, as a teenager.
Yeah.
I start drinking. It's been 2 years now since I've had a drink. I gave up 2 years ago. Many different reasons, but probably because part of it I was using it as a remedy to escape.
Yeah.
And also part of it, I've got young kids now. I found myself, the experience I enjoyed, you go out, you socialise, you enjoy it. Towards the end, I didn't quite enjoy it because I didn't like the feeling of not being in control.
Yeah.
And also the next day, the guilt when my kids are jumping around on my head and I'm irritable and I'm moody and I want to sleep. It's quite, as well, because you're a father and you're a dad, having kids is a very selfless act.
Yeah.
For the first time in your life, you're putting someone else solely before you. Your sole purpose is to father them, to be their dad. And I felt like alcohol was getting in the way of that.
Yeah.
So, but I know people, it's a weird one, because society and alcohol in this culture, in this country, it's probably the only drug, I'd reckon, where when you say you're not doing it, people look at you weird.
Yeah.
The first 6 months, what do you mean you're not drinking? Well, no, have a drink. No, I don't want one.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't see that with cocaine. You wouldn't see that with, I don't know, heroin, meth. You wouldn't see that with anyone else, would you? But with alcohol, if you're not drinking, there's something wrong with you.
I think if you look back through the ages, as far back as we can go, alcohol has always been in every religion, as in like the Christian side of things and Catholic, wine, and it's socially acceptable because of so many people were doing it. It was like smoking. When smoking came out, everybody was smoking because it was a cool thing to do and it's socially acceptable. Now, people that smoke cigarettes are ostracised outside of restaurants and bars. It's frowned upon.
Yeah. A lot of the younger generation haven't taken that up now, have they? Because it's not there in your face. A lot of the films, you don't see a lot of people smoking in the films and stuff.
No. And I think that's another thing, isn't it? A lot of things come from what we see on television. So when we was growing up, films and stuff like that might have played an important role in what we perceived to be reality. And children now, they're exposed to things on Instagram, social media. Yeah. So, a lot of, as you get older, you realise some of the strategically placed adverts in between shows that you're watching. Yeah. Even the subliminal messages in movies where they show one clip of Pepsi and you think, oh, I want a Pepsi. They've hidden that in film.
Very, very clever.
Yeah, it
is very clever. So we haven't really talked about what made you want to set up this group, what made you want to kind of get into helping men, because this is all about raising awareness, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Getting men to talk. And as I said previously, all these groups are absolutely useless if we don't get men to talk. And actually, touching on a point where you were saying a lot of women have contacted you,
Yeah.
I think women as well play such a key role. Sisters, wives, girlfriends, mums play such a key role, because if they're living with someone a man or boy who's suffering with mental health issues, they're going to spot it.
Yeah.
And we know as men, I know what I'm like. If there's something wrong and I don't feel well, I'm a pain in the arse to sort it out.
Yeah.
My missus has to tell me 10 times, "Have you rung the doctors yet?" "No, I'm not. I'll be all right. I'll be all right." "Have you rung the doctors yet?" No. It'll fix itself. We just don't want to accept help sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes having a proactive female, around you in your environment might give you that little nudge to say, "Look, I know you're not feeling good. I know you're not thinking right.
Yeah.
How about you go and speak to someone, or how about you go out with your mate, or how about you ring this number? How about you watch this podcast?" Do you know what I mean? Those women can be so influential.
Yeah, I think we should never underestimate the importance of having a strong woman around you.
Yeah.
I grew up in an Italian family, and my grandma was the backbone of my Italian family. So, my English side as well, my English nan was the same. And it wasn't until we lost my English nan that you don't hear what's happening in your cousins' lives. You don't hear what's happening with your auntie and uncle. They're strong, independent women. And, I'm a firm believer in behind every good man is an even better woman. And men struggling with mental health affects women because they have to live with us.
Yep, of course it does.
And you're right. The women that they are like, my partner will say, have you gone and done your MOT, or have you done this, have you done that? And pushing upon you the importance of taking care of yourself, because if you're not right, how can you look after others?
Yeah. You've got to be, I think, physically and mentally in a good place to be the best boyfriend, be the best husband, be the best dad, be the best brother.
Indeed.
And they all benefit from that. Your whole household, your whole circle, your friends or family, everyone will benefit for that.
I think as men, we have so many more roles now as we did, in the 80s. A man in the 80s was stereotypically, you go out, you work, you provide for your family, and the woman would make the home and look after the children. And although roles have now changed and men do more and women do more, a man can't make a home.
Yeah.
A man can't bring what a woman brings to the home.
Yeah. I think each of their roles, we were talking about this earlier, weren't we?
Yeah.
Are so special. Like being a mum, I couldn't do it.
No.
But I'd like to think she couldn't be the dad.
Yeah.
And it's not because of me personally, it's just because the traits sometimes of a male are just different. They both bring special qualities to a home, don't they?
Yeah, indeed. I think something that happened with us when we was kids, and is something that I see happening a lot now, is when the mum will say, "Wait till your dad gets home."
Yep.
So the first thing you have to do when you've returned from your day is discipline the kids.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing I think that should change. I think that, the women, if they're struggling with the children at home, it should be a conversation with the dad and then the mum and dad sit down together, because some men are out there working 60 hours a week. They come home after a 12-hour shift. The precious little time they get from coming home to when the children go to bed is then being filled with the need to discipline them for what they've done when you wasn't even there.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to change. I think sitting down with your children and saying, when I'm at work, you need to be good for your mum, because I don't want to come home from work and the time that we have is spent telling you off. And then you're upset with me, and then you go to bed upset, and we haven't spent any quality time. So I think it's important that men and women, they sit down and sing from the same hymn sheet when it comes to parenting.
Yeah, definitely. Especially even if when you're both in the same house, you've got to back each other, even if you don't agree with it.
Yeah,
you've got to show that unity, because it's so important. The kids will sense the weakness.
100%.
They will know who's weak, and they'll come after you.
Smart. Yeah.
They will come after you. Do you think? Just going off at a slight tangent in a minute. Do you think we as society have kind of been told there's more important things than children, and hence why a lot of people we have kids older and then we struggle because we're almost we're almost taught through school and everything, it's about us, it's about me. I can go and do this, I can travel the world, I can buy this car, I should have this job, my job's more... Is everything geared up to be more important than our children? And then, so when people do have children, they struggle because all this life we've been told it's about us and we're kind of selfish. And now, we've got to be selfless, and people find that difficult.
I think I touched base on this on one of the videos that I've posted before. I think there's so much more going on now.
Yeah.
And there's so many more distractions being a parent. So
the phone doesn't help for starters, does it?
Exactly that. So I was saying in one of the videos that I've done, when I was a child, we'd go out, we'd play out till it went dark, or we'd be in earshot of our parents when they said, come in, dinner's ready. If we was in our room, we was playing on age-appropriate computer games, Lego, wrestling figures, or whatever we was doing as kids. Now, your child can be in their room, on their own, and unsafe.
Yeah, it's true. In your four walls and still be unsafe.
You cannot protect. It is so much harder to be a parent now than it was before. And there's so many dangers to protect your children against. Well, you have to have eyes everywhere.
It's no longer a physical danger,
no.
That you can see that's coming for you at your school or wherever.
Yep.
You've now, as you said, got to have eyes on the back of your head.
Yeah.
And also you're in that dilemma then as well, because you don't want your child to miss out. You don't want them to be the ones to be without, but you also want them to be safe when they are online and when they are using their phone and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there are things you can put in place to protect the children. So like VPNs on your network provider, screen monitoring time, so you can give them an hour on their phone, and then once their hour's reached, the phone's no longer, they can't use certain apps. And then familiarizing yourself with the type of apps your kids are using.
Yeah.
Even on like the children's YouTube, they can still access other things from that, or people will make material for children's YouTube and have access to your children. So I mean, there is things you can do, but it's just being hyper vigilant in a time where we're so busy doing other things.
Yeah, I get that. So we talk a little bit about how we haven't actually touched on how you came about and what your backstory was.
Yes.
Why you're doing this.
So
and why you're trying to raise awareness and.
Yeah. So basically, from a young age, I've always been somebody that helps people.
Yeah.
I've always found joy and pleasure in helping other people, and from a kid. So my mum used to work with children with special needs and neurodiverse children. So she'd work at the care home, and they'd put on fetes and stuff like that. So I'd go and help out at the fetes. I'd make the posters, and I'd be involved. And my mum thought it was important for me and my two brothers to be around other children that was neurodiverse or was Down syndrome, to show they're still normal people. So because at that time there was a stigma around people with Down syndrome and stuff. So I was involved in helping then. So I guess it come from my mum. And then I've been through quite a lot, a lot of loss, a lot of trauma, and recently going through a family court situation. It made me feel alone. It made me feel like, as much as my family and people around me care and love me and want to support me, none of them have ever been through what I'm going through. So how can they really relate? So I started going to a men's group, and it's the first one in Hertfordshire, believe it or not. It was the first one at the time. And I went there, and there was the two guys that was hosting the men's group, and there was one other guy. And I thought to myself,
just one guy who'd actually attended for help.
One guy. Yeah. And that one guy had been going for 6 months and often went alone, or there might be one person that would go once. And I said to them, how do you advertise or promote this? They said, we don't, we work with social services, and people are told that it's here. And I just thought to myself, something needs to be done. And originally I was going to do a podcast about self-representing in family court and the structure and how family courts run. But then I thought to myself, do you know what? It's so much more. It needs to be so much more than that. So this is why I've created the Man Up, No Man Down meetings. And when we have them, basically, you know, there will, like I said, there'll be some topics, but it will be for the men to discuss their experiences.
Okay.
You know, so it might be, for argument's sake, what is the common perception of how a man should be in the 21st century? Well, how do you feel you're perceived to be a man, and how do you feel those pressures impact you? Because there's so much more expected of a man now. And it will be then for the group to discuss amongst themselves and put their answers forward. So really my job is to put a structure in place, a platform in place, and the men that are there will talk amongst themselves and then realise they're not alone.
Yeah, that's brilliant, mate. I think the hardest, by the way, if you hear any noises in the background, the kids are still around. So it's Easter holidays, so you might hear some screaming and shouting. I think the hardest bit is getting men there, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think once they're there and you've kind of broke that barrier, got
Yeah.
past that obstacle of, you know, the stigma of going to a meeting or going to a talk, charity group or whatever it is, I think once you realise there's other people who are going through something similar,
Yeah.
you almost let your guard down.
Massively.
And you think, actually, I'm not alone, but I can actually see that I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And you can kind of take on the help and assistance. I think it's really good what you're doing. I think it's brilliant. I think, as I said, we're so spoiled with the amount. We were just talking about Head Warriors as well, weren't we?
Yeah.
Talking
Shout
about you
out to Head
and
Warriors.
and how you're doing a wonderful job up there. But yeah, we're spoiled with so much choice. But again, what do you think we could improve on in actually driving men to these meetings or to reaching help? What do you think is like the biggest barrier in us asking for help? Do you think it's an ego? Do you think it's a pride thing? Or do you think it's what, and I know it was partly in my case as well, is I was worried how I was going to be perceived?
I think there's multiple things, different things that affect people to not reaching out for help. I mean, we've all done it. How many times have you had a really bad day? You pull up to your house, you sit in the car to compose yourself because you need to be a different person when you're walking through that front door because your wife depends on you, your children depend on you. We've all done that, and I think knowing that something's there to help people, like there's so many other things out there. There's so many. You know, I looked on Instagram and stuff like that for support groups, and a lot of them are positive quotes, inspirational quotes, and memes and stuff like that. That might work for some people, but it's not enough, you know, for the majority of men. So raising awareness, if people know there's a community support group, you know, that they can go to that's local, where there's a pool table, ping pong table, you know, a large room where there'll be other men there that are all going through something similar. They just need to be able to talk to other men, and a problem shares the problem halved, isn't it? So
most definitely, I think. And Amy, Head Warriors, you talk about this. Just talk. You know, I think everyone, when the subject of mental health and like, I'm not doing great and always comes up, people just need to talk.
Yeah.
And I think we, in our heads, we worry so much about what's going to happen or what's happened that it kind of consumes us.
Yeah.
And it's never as bad as we think it is.
No.
You know, we kind of magnify it so big in our head that this is going to be a huge issue. And generally, when we talk about it, most of the time the other person's like, is that it?
Yeah.
Is that what you're worried about? Is that what you're consumed about?
We get consumed because I saw something the other day and it just said, you know, bad times and good times, they come and go, you know, and as bad as it might be in that moment, tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah.
And the longer you sit there inside a negative headspace with negative thoughts, you're giving it energy, you're allowing it to grow and you're allowing it to consume you. So I think, you know, the most positive thing that anybody can do is, even with anxiety, I said before, you know, dealing with anxiety, I struggle at times with anxiety. I don't want to answer the phone, I don't want to open letters, I don't want to answer the door. But something that was taught to me before was, if you have something to do in a day that's causing you stress and anxiety, deal with it in the morning.
Okay.
Get it done early doors, because if you leave it to the end of the day, you've got the whole day of dread, fear, anxiety. If you get it done first thing in the morning, it's out of the way.
It's done.
You've got the rest of the day to think, it wasn't that bad, it's done now.
That makes sense.
And I've got the rest of the day ahead of me.
Yeah.
Because the level of anxiety doesn't change in the afternoon or the morning. So you either sit with a whole day of anxiety or you get it done in the morning.
Just do it and move on.
Just do it and get it done.
Move on.
Yeah.
Talking about social media, I've only been on a short time like yourself. I
Yeah.
think I joined Instagram in February, and it's mainly just to promote this.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really know any other way of promoting. You know, I'm quite new to social media. WhatsApp is about as technical as I've got before. But I have seen there's a lot of, as you said, a lot of motivational quotes out there, and sometimes they can be great if you're receptive to it at that time.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes they're really good. Like with music as well, sometimes you can hear a song, it can make you feel good, it can make you feel happy. And there are a lot of people on there talking about mental health and a lot of stories. And what I will say is, listen, there's so much out there. But then I notice there's also people who have got these inspirational stories who will then knock methods of improving your mental health.
Yeah.
So they would knock meditating, they would knock counselling, they would knock therapy, they would knock ice baths, they would knock all these sorts of things. And all I will say is, listen, and I keep saying it through my posts and everything, find what works for you.
Yeah.
If you follow someone who has a negative kind of feeling about one of the methods that might help you, don't let that stop you trying it, because that might be the one method that does help you. You know, as people talking about mental health and trying to raise awareness and trying to make people feel better, we should be encouraging you guys to try everything, because you might stumble across something that works. And just because, as Chris said it before, just because something doesn't work for him doesn't mean it's not going to work for me. It might work for you. But just try it. There's so many. We're so lucky. We've got meditate. You've got your phone at the end of your hand.
Yeah.
You've got music on tap. You've got reading. You've got meditation. Just getting outside in nature, walking.
Walking
You know, I'm a big advocate of walking.
Yeah.
You know, open your front door. I keep saying it. Just get outside. You never hear about anyone coming back from a walk saying that was a rubbish walk, or I feel bad, or I feel sad for doing that. Just get out. If you haven't got a park near you, just find a space, find a pavement. Just get yourself out. Even if it's only 20 minutes, you will feel better. You will feel better.
Yeah. I think the most important one is talk, reach out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm fortunate. I've got a good support group around me, as in family and friends. And they've been fully supportive of what I'm doing.
That really helps, doesn't it?
Massively.
It really helps.
It's like I said, I'm one man, one voice, one idea. Without people sharing, viewing, liking, it doesn't go anywhere. I'll be sitting wherever I'm sitting, making videos. And if you don't share that video, it won't reach the people that need it.
Yeah.
So the podcasts, along with the meet and greets that we're going to be doing, and the men's meeting, the podcasts are going to be related to the meetup, because some people either they're limited ability and they can't get to the events. They might not live anywhere near Hemel Hempstead. They might be in another country. So I thought to myself, once we've had the meeting or the meetup of the group, after that, do a podcast based on what was discussed in the group, so it reaches other people.
That's a good idea.
But yeah, I mean, literally, people you just need to reach out. You just need to talk. You know, you'll be surprised at how many of your friends and family are going through something similar and haven't spoken out about it. So I think the most important thing to do first is just reach out. I'm not okay. I'm not all right. It's been a bad day. Get it off your chest. And, you know, suicide rate is at an all-time high for men.
It's ridiculous.
2 people a day on a construction site are killing themselves.
That's just the construction
Just
site.
the construction industry, 2 people a day. It costs nothing to smile. It costs nothing to say to somebody, hey, how you doing? You don't even need to know them. Just your energy and what you put out, it could have a massive impact on somebody who's already feeling low. So just have a smile. It costs nothing. Hey, how you doing, buddy? You all right? A smile, you know, just communicate. We don't, in this day and age, people live next door to people for 10 years and don't talk to their neighbours.
Yeah.
I bring my neighbours' bins in, they take mine out. If there's any problems ever, they'll knock on my door, I'll knock on theirs. We take parcels in for each other, you know. We're in a time where people are isolating themselves and don't communicate with their neighbours. Yeah. And you live next door to each other. And that's where we are really as society. So it's important. Reach out, ask for help, talk.
I think when you mention neighbours and stuff, we've lost our communities.
Yeah.
That's what we've lost. If you go back to like when we were mining and stuff like that, communities held such power. You know, you'd always look out for each other.
Yeah.
You knew who everyone was, your neighbours, you know, the people around you, the shops you visited. And we have lost that. And a lot of it is probably down to technology and phones and people wanting to be busy. But as you say, listen, it costs nothing to check up on your neighbours, to say hello to someone at a bus stop. It is weird. You use public transport every day if you use it, and you'll probably see the same people, but no one talks to anyone. And the person next to you, just think about it, the person next to you might be going through something really, really harsh, really, really terrible. The head might be spinning. And just you saying, good morning, or, how was your day? Not only does it make your journey go quicker, but because you've shown that interest, and you've made that one little interaction, it can have such a ripple effect on that person.
Such a positive impact.
They might have vented to you, and they can go home, and they don't have to wait outside the house for 5 minutes to compose themselves.
Yeah.
Because they feel released. They feel a bit lighter. Their shoulders feel a bit, lighter. But listen, just look out for each other. And I think you're doing great things, Chris. I can't wait to get him back on here. This time, later on this year, and see where you're at. I can only see positive things going for this group, and I'm sure your members, guys, if you're out there and you're in the Hemel Hempstead area, look out for the meetings, get yourself down there, get things off your chest, make yourself feel better, because you can spend more quality time with your friends and family without carrying this burden around. But I'll put the links in my in the videos below, so you can have a look at Chris's site. It'll take you straight there, and I'm sure that you'll be putting your upcoming meetings on there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've come on here. I haven't even done my own podcast yet. So
no, it's good.
I didn't want to turn down the opportunity to come over. It's also appreciate and respect what you're doing and promoting the fitness side of things. I think keeping healthy, a healthy body, a healthy stomach, it improves a healthy mind. Yeah. So I think that you can come down to do a presentation at one of our meets and just raise awareness about walking, having a jog, because what we want to implement in our group is, I'm fully aware, being 42 years old, one shoe doesn't fit all people, and what works for me might not work for you. So we've got somebody who is a professional boxer coming in to do a talk. We've got somebody who does yoga coming in to do a talk. We've got somebody who has a running club. So we're trying to find loads of different things that can help people that might not be good for you, boxing, but football might be good for you, or running or walking. And then introducing people to the volunteer programs that are local to us. So I think some people, they work Monday to Friday, can't wait to get home. Right? You want to get home, you want to enjoy your weekend. Some people, all they have is work.
Yes.
Some people have nothing to go back to.
They need that routine.
Yeah, so their weekends are there dreading. So if you could fill them weekends with volunteering or helping other people within the support group, you're just introducing people to a different way, a different thing to fill their time and give back and feel positive from.
Also, you're doing what we were just talking about is lacking. You're creating a community again.
Yeah.
You're creating people from a local area who are going to get to know each other, who are going to help each other out. And that's what a community is. So you're almost starting again and saying, listen, this is what we're lacking. Yeah. This is where we need to make ourselves better, and start growing your own community.
Yeah, that's the idea behind it. I think, if so many people are sitting together, and it could be your first time in a community support group, and you sit there and you think, I felt so alone for so long, and I'm not alone. Yeah. That guy over there has been through what? It could be bereavement of your partner. It could be loss of a family member. There's so many different things to make people feel a negative way. But there'd be men in that group that won't even talk. They'll listen, and they'll take just as much away from the groups as the men that talk. But there'll be men that don't talk that sit there and think, he's not talking. He's more relatable than me, say. So he'll go and talk to him. And there'll be cliques and little groups that form and branch off who have similar interests or going through similar things. Yeah. And that's all I want to do. I just want to create a community of men that can talk.
No, I think, as I said, I really admire what you're doing. I think it's brilliant. And anytime we can cross over and help each other, I'm here.
Most definitely.
But yeah, as you know, that's what I've been trying to spread the message of, listen, keeping active and keeping good mental health go hand in hand. Generally, the more active you are, the more you're outside, the more you're doing stuff. It doesn't lower your problems, because those problems are going to come anyway. Yeah. But it almost better equips you to deal with those problems, because you're in a better place where you can make better decisions. You're feeling better about yourself. Generally, when you're not good in the head, you don't make good decisions. No. Them decisions are based on emotion sometimes rather than logic. So they can all help. And the one last point I wanted to touch on, by the way, all you guys watching, I know Chris mentioned it earlier about the trauma jar. Yeah. I always talk about the trauma jar as well.
Yeah.
Putting things in. Your trauma jar, the size of it is not related to how big you are, by the way. Right. So big person doesn't necessarily have a big trauma jar that can hold more trauma. It doesn't matter. Everyone's jar is different. Don't feel like you're going to be perceived in a different way if you're bigger and come into a meeting group or whatever it is. Listen, take the opportunity. There's people like Chris doing out there, and Amy from Head Warriors as well, who are reaching out and trying to help their local communities and make a safe space for you guys to feel better so you can enjoy your life more. So take it. He's doing really good stuff. We'll have him back on here soon and we'll see where you are. But good luck, mate, for the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good to have you on, Chris. Thank you.